Untraceable corporate cash pouring into elections, big and small, has been called one of the biggest threats to our democracy. The Supreme Court made that legal with its ruling in the Citizens United versus the Federal Election Commission case. And that ruling allowed big companies, including foreign corporations, to spend unlimited amounts of money to influence elections and candidates. So what's been the effect of this ruling? Kimberly Reed is the writer and the director of a new documentary. It's called Dark Money. Kimberly, it's nice to have you.
Nice to be here.
Before we dig into your documentary, which is excellent, I want to first talk about all the things that are the background to the documentary. So talk about Citizens United. Walk me through that specific case and how the Supreme Court decided and why that was so momentous, really, to how elections now run.
It actually started with a question about a documentary film. And there's this documentary film, it was called Hillary the Movie by Citizens United Productions. And it looked to most people like that is basically a campaign ad. It is being run to defeat Hillary Clinton. And the question was whether or not that piece, that communication, was electioneering communications, and as such, whether it could be constrained and would have to follow the rules of campaign finance. The Supreme Court decided that this was electioneering communications. This did have an intent to defeat Hillary Clinton, but the Supreme Court also said that that could not be constrained. So kind of the shorthand way that people talk about Citizens United a lot of times is to say that, you know, corporations are people, right, and money is speech.
Corporations are people was kind of a weird moment in time for me.
Yeah, like, wait a second, this doesn't make any sense to the basic person on the street.
So you go back home, you go to Montana. Did you know you were shooting a documentary? Was that your plan from the get-go?
I saw that my home state of Montana was the one state that was saying, you know what, we've been through this. We have this law. It's the Corrupt Practices Act of 1912. Been around for a century, been serving us pretty well to keep corporate money out of politics. And Montana was defending that law, saying that Citizens United should not hold sway in Montana.
Big money used dark money and this curtain of secrecy to basically buy a legislature or buy a state or eventually, ultimately, you know, control public policy in this country.
Many people thought corporations would start, you know, putting their finger on the scales in politics, but actually what seemed like what became a bigger problem was the anonymity of how cash was coming in.
It was about the anonymity that unlimited money was going to have. Put another way, a little bit of anonymous money goes a lot farther than you know, big chunk of just unlimited money, right?
What was the most surprising thing from your documentary that you found as a filmmaker?
I think that the way that the average everyday citizen was able to follow some pretty complicated twists and turns of a campaign finance story was you know, it was really surprising and amazing that the average everyday citizen could pay attention to these pretty intricate regulations.
Does that make you feel hopeful about what ultimately could happen with Citizens United? Because it does feel sometimes that some of these issues are so complicated that if you can't fit it into an 8-second soundbite, nobody's going to care, nobody's going to get it. And really, your film does show that people do have a very finely honed sense of justice in elections.
Yep. And sometimes that justice is coming from politicians who are being attacked by other politicians unfairly. Sometimes the justice in what we saw in Montana, it just comes from the average everyday citizen who's paying attention to all of this. And even with super PACs and dark money groups spending unlimited amounts in elections, we still need to be able to see where the money is coming from. Disclosure is paramount, and we can enforce those laws.
Kimberly Reed, the documentary is called Dark Money. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
You bet.